He was the last person I should have been with that night, the night before I was supposed to promise myself to someone else. But there he was, standing at my hotel door in the rain, dripping, drunk, and broken, like every awful memory we shared. I should have slammed it shut. I should have called security. I should have reminded myself of the dress hanging by the mirror, the vows I'd rehearsed 100 times, the man waiting to marry me in the morning. But instead, I let him in. And when his lips touched mine, all the years of heartbreak, screaming, leaving, forgiving, and repeating, it all came back like muscle memory. We didn't talk much. We didn't need to. His hand said what his mouth couldn't. And I kept telling myself, it's just one last time. One last time to finally bury it. But now, 6 weeks later, I'm staring at 2 pink lines, whispering the name of a man I shouldn't even still love. And I haven't told my husband. Before I tell you what happened next, make sure you're alone, because this gets messy fast. People always say you get cold feet before a wedding, like it's some quirky rite of passage, a last-minute fear you laugh about later over champagne and wedding cake. But mine wasn't fear. It was something heavier. Denser. Like a knot in my chest I couldn't untangle. I'd spent the whole day pretending. Smiling at my bridal shower. Laughing with my bridesmaids. Kissing my fiancé on the cheek when he surprised me with a note that said, "Can't wait to make you mine forever." I smiled when I read it. And then I cried in the hotel bathroom, silently, hunched over the sink, mascara smudging down my cheeks like black confession. Because I wasn't ready. Not because I didn't love Daniel, I did, in the only safe way I knew how. But because someone else had already broken me so thoroughly that Daniel only ever got the pieces. And part of me still belonged to that man. His name was Jay. Jay, the mistake I kept coming back to. The beautiful disaster with whiskey eyes and a cruel mouth I used to trace with my fingertips like scripture. We were toxic. Addicted. Obsessive. And we ruined each other, slowly, for 5 chaotic years. He'd cheat. I'd cry. I'd threaten to leave. He'd beg. We'd make up, have the most violent, desperate kind of sex, and then start the whole cycle again. When I finally left for good, I thought I'd won. I blocked him. Changed my number. Even moved cities. Then met Daniel, the kind, steady, reliable Daniel, and told myself this was what real love looked like. Gentle. Boring, even. Safe. But on the night before my wedding, Jay knocked on my door like a ghost I hadn't buried right. He didn't say anything at first, just looked at me, soaked in rain, eyes rimmed red. "You're really doing it, huh?" he finally said, and his voice cracked just enough to hit me in the chest. I told him to leave. He laughed. Told me I didn't mean it. Told me he knew me better than that. And maybe that's why I let him in. Because he did. I told myself it would be 5 minutes. I told myself I'd get closure. But you don't invite a fire into your room for closure. You invite it to burn. And that's exactly what we did. The sex was frantic, angry, almost hateful. We didn't even make it to the bed. He took me right there against the wall, my white silk robe bunched at my waist, his hand around my throat like he was trying to choke the truth out of me. I came undone too fast. And when it was over, we didn't speak. He just rested his forehead against mine and whispered, "You're not his. You never were." The door clicked behind him 15 minutes later. I stared at it like it had answers. Then I crawled into bed, heart racing, and dreamt of Daniel standing at the altar, watching me walk toward him with blood on my hands. The next morning, I wore white. I kissed my husband. I said I do with lips that had said his name the night before. I became a wife. And a liar. It started with nausea. Just a little at first. I blamed it on stress, or maybe the champagne we toasted with on the honeymoon. But then came the fatigue. The cravings. The overwhelming urge to cry at literally nothing, like when Daniel surprised me with a puppy, and I sobbed because it looked at me too lovingly. Something was wrong. Or, something was very, very right. I bought a test, like some cliché. The cashier looked young, like she still believed in soulmates and happy endings. I shoved the box under a bag of chips, paid in cash, and barely made it back to the apartment before ripping it open with shaking hands. 5 minutes. That's all it took for my entire world to split in two. 2 pink lines. Bold. Loud. Unapologetic. I sank to the floor of our bathroom, clutching the test like it might change if I stared long enough. But it didn't. It just sat there, smug, ruining my life. Daniel found me an hour later, still on the floor, still staring. "What's wrong, baby?" he asked, crouching beside me, concerned. I wanted to tell him the truth. I almost did. But then he saw the test. And his face lit up. "Oh my God, are you?" I nodded slowly. Not because I was happy, but because I didn't know what else to do. He picked me up, spun me around like we were in a goddamn movie, and said, "I didn't think I could love you more, but I was wrong." And I let him. For the next few weeks, I played the part. Happy wife. Glowing mother-to-be. I even started a secret Pinterest board called Baby Names Daniel Will Like. But at night, I'd lie awake and count weeks on my fingers. Over and over again. And every time, I ended up in the same place. The baby wasn't Daniel's. I knew it. Deep down. My period had been regular my entire adult life, like clockwork. Except this time. This one time. And the timeline didn't lie. Neither did the faint memory of Jay grabbing my hips, whispering "I want to ruin you" in my ear, and not once reaching for a condom. I told myself I couldn't be sure. I clung to uncertainty like a shield. But truth has a way of getting louder the longer you ignore it. Jay didn't know. And I wasn't going to tell him. That was the plan. Until one night, I found myself drunk texting him. I don't even remember what I wrote. Just that it was messy and pathetic and way too long. He didn't reply. But 3 days later, he showed up. Again. In the parking garage of my office, leaning against his car like he hadn't shattered me 1,000 times. "You called," he said, smirking. "Or are you drunk texting all your exes these days?" I told him to leave. He didn't. "You looked pregnant in that photo you posted. With the beach dress. Belly kind of sticking out." My blood turned to ice. "You been keeping secrets, baby girl?" I said nothing. He stepped closer, eyes narrowing. "Is it mine?" I shook my head too fast. Too defensive. Too guilty. He laughed. Cold. Sharp. "You forget I know your tell, Ivy. You do that twitchy eye thing when you lie." He took a step back then, like he'd confirmed what he needed. "Congrats, Mrs. Perfect. Looks like you're still mine after all." And just like that, the house of lies I'd built started to crack. The worst part wasn't the guilt. It wasn't the lying. It wasn't even the baby growing inside me with eyes I feared might one day look like Jay's. It was how happy Daniel was. He kissed my stomach every night like it was the most sacred thing he'd ever touched. He started journaling letters to our little one. He read baby books out loud, even though I wasn't showing yet, and told me, "They say the baby can hear us at 12 weeks. So I want our baby to hear love." I'd smile. Kiss him. Curl up beside him in bed. And then, when he fell asleep, I'd sneak into the guest bathroom and throw up everything inside me, not from morning sickness, but from shame. Jay hadn't reached out again. But he didn't need to. His silence echoed louder than his words ever had. I could feel him watching from a distance, waiting like a wolf outside a cabin door, knowing eventually I'd have to come out. And I did. I went to see him. Alone. 7 weeks after the test. He opened the door, shirtless, with a cigarette dangling from his lips and that same cocky smirk that always made my knees weak and my self-worth evaporate. "Didn't think you had the guts," he said, stepping aside. "I need to talk," I said. He sat on the couch, spread wide like he owned the room. "Talk." "I don't know what I'm doing," I admitted. My voice cracked. This wasn't supposed to happen. Except it did. Silence. Then, softly, "Is it mine?" "I don't know," I whispered. He laughed, bitter and cruel. "Of course you do." I turned away, but he was behind me too fast, arms around me, lips brushing my neck. "You always come back. No matter who you marry. No matter what lies you tell." And for a moment, I wanted to believe him. I wanted to fall back into that chaos. Because at least chaos felt honest. But then I thought of Daniel. His smile. His warmth. The way he kissed my hand when I wasn't looking. "I'm not coming back," I said. Jay stepped away. "Sure you're not." But his eyes told me he didn't believe me. And maybe I didn't either. Back home, Daniel had made dinner. Lit candles. Played soft music. "You okay?" he asked, wiping sauce from my chin like I was porcelain. I nodded, tears burning behind my eyes. But that night, while he slept beside me, I opened his laptop. I searched paternity testing during pregnancy. Bookmarked 3 clinics. Deleted the history. I wasn't just carrying a baby. I was carrying a secret with a ticking clock. And something told me Jay wouldn't stay silent forever. The clinic smelled like antiseptic and fake hope. I sat in the waiting room surrounded by pamphlets for parenting classes and photos of smiling babies whose futures hadn't yet been screwed up by secrets. I told Daniel I had a prenatal checkup. I even sent him a fake appointment reminder I doctored on my phone. He texted back, "Can't wait to hear the heartbeat again. Record it for me?" I said I would. Instead, I sat with a stranger in a lab coat who didn't ask questions when I handed over the sample envelopes. One from me. One from Daniel, taken from his toothbrush. And one from Jay, scraped from the used cigarette I pocketed the day I went to see him. Yes, I went that far. Because when your life is built on a lie, you cling to control in whatever sick way you can. They told me results would take 10 days. 10 days of pretending. Smiling. Letting Daniel talk about baby names while I memorized escape plans. 10 days of sleeping next to a man who whispered dreams into my belly while I dreamed only of burning everything down. The day the results came, I almost didn't open the envelope. But then I did. With shaking hands and breath held so long I nearly passed out. The name on the page wasn't Daniel's. It was Jay's. My knees buckled. My stomach twisted. It was real. It was undeniable. And suddenly, I wasn't just a liar. I was a fraud. I knew I couldn't keep pretending. But telling the truth? That would destroy everything. So I did what cowards do. I waited. Until Jay forced my hand. He showed up. Again. This time, in broad daylight. At my doorstep. While Daniel was home. You didn't tell him, Jay said, glancing behind me like he could see Daniel setting the table inside. Cute. You think secrets stay buried? Please, I whispered, stepping outside. Leave. No, he pulled out a photo from his jacket, a sonogram I didn't give him. He must have taken it from my social media, or worse. You think I'm gonna let my kid be raised by some boring suburban husband? It's not your choice, I hissed. Oh, but it is, he said. Because if you don't tell him, I will. I stared at him, feeling everything shatter inside me. I knew then, this wasn't about love. Not for Jay. Not anymore. This was about control. Ownership. Ego. And I was done being owned. That night, I told Daniel everything. The affair. The test. The baby. I expected him to yell. Throw something. Beg me to say it wasn't true. But he didn't. He just stood there. Silent. Pale. Then said, I would have raised that baby as mine, Ivy. I would have loved them, and you, for the rest of my life. Even knowing. I reached for him. He stepped back. You should go, he said quietly. And this time, don't come back. And just like that, my marriage died. Not with a scream. But with a whisper. It's been 4 months now. I'm showing. Jay calls sometimes. I don't always answer. I'm not sure what kind of mother I'll be. Or if I'll even be a good one. All I know is that I burned down everything good in my life for a night I can't even remember without wincing. And every time this baby kicks, I wonder if they'll ever forgive me for how they came to be. Or if I'll ever forgive myself. The end.